Hi, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Great, great, great. Maybe we
So,
can
I'm Nick Haslam, and you are Boyan
Balinov.
Album. And yeah, we're here to have a talk about what's happening in the Holochain world as big fans, not as business people, but
Yeah,
just to support our community. So
yeah,
yeah,
man.
we thought a great idea now that the end of year wrap up AMA has just been completed and 2018 is behind us, and we've had a lot of hackathons and major development. So seems like a pretty good time to get a community-powered podcast happening.
Yeah, we've been having such conversations quite a lot, so we were like, why don't we just hit a record? And I know maybe some people know us as being both of us being involved with Hum, but it's good to mention that this call is just basically being, yeah, like interested, connected, and really inspired by Holo and Holochain, and yeah, that's let's see. But yeah, it
So
was the EMA. It was last evening for me. I think it was in the morning for you. You are down in Australia, so
yeah,
yeah.
it was 6 a.m. for me, so I did the
Mm,
sunrise thing.
ah, cool.
So yeah, I mean, like now that we've had the end of year AMA,
Mm,
I guess for me, uh, our journey started in February when we had our company meetup in Hawaii, and we were talking to one of the world leaders in food, and he was very against blockchain, and
mm,
we were looking at solutions to do with like supply chain and how to get real food and to the people. And I've got some land, and I've been looking to create a seed bank. Just been studying some of the ancient techniques, and during the conversation, he dropped the name Holochain,
mm,
and as a result of that, I came back to Australia, and Belinda Noakes and myself went to a hackathon in Sydney,
mm,
and we met Arthur and Philip Beadle, and then the very next weekend we went to the hackathon in Melbourne and continued on, and I got involved in the ICO, and then we went through the process of learning more about it and reskilling and all that kind of thing, and now it's been about 9 months or so, and now we've got the Holoport's about to be released pretty soon. We've got the Holo store opening, and we've got a live app. We've got lots of exciting news. So it's been quite phenomenal, really. So
yeah, yeah. I can definitely relate to that. You know, I've been involved with a couple of projects in my past, basically since 2016 until the end of 2017, that were building on Ethereum, and it was quite a ride. And funny enough, in 2017, I had this kind of quite difficult period with myself. I was questioning why I was involved with the project I was involved with and how the things were going. And 2017, I guess for many people in crypto, was a very exciting year, but also it turns out to be something quite different than even we were anticipating in 2015, 2016, when we were starting to build some projects and trying to basically bring something that will probably and hopefully change the way things are done in business. And the project I was involved was a little bit focused on entertainment. And so yeah, 2017, and I can relate with what you just said, Nick, about that some people will start having second thoughts about it's not simply the hype around blockchain, but also the motivation and intention and how things were turning. I personally saw a lot of people, really bright people with very deep and strong intention to bring change, getting lost in the past few years, getting lost and losing a little bit their way. So yeah, I had such a moment, and I decided to move on. So for a while, I was just basically focusing on my family. I have 3 years old, so it was just a great time to be simply a daddy. And at that time, I had kind of opening and completely randomly just going through my Twitter feed. I mean, like, how often do people do that? Just like completely randomly, I found something about Holochain. So I was like, let's see. And I was instantly hooked, and it was like a couple of months before the ICO. And then when I start seeing, I've been quite involved also in ICOs and all this scene in 2016, 17 in Ethereum, but I've never ever seen such like the way the Holo ICO was organized. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, like, many people perhaps are not aware that it did last a full 4 weeks. I guess some people, especially being involved with ICOs in the past 2 years, understand what that really means. I mean, some ICOs literally finished within the first minute. They were so rigged and so manipulated that basically some people were paying money to know in front where the ICO will go live. I mean, like, which Ethereum block, because most of the ICOs were on the Ethereum, on the Ethereum blockchain. So, and they would just throw all these huge amounts of Ether precisely at the time that they'll hit the block when the ICO will go live. And the ICO will be finished literally in a couple of Ethereum blocks, like 20, 30 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute. It was crazy. So those guys organized the ICO in a way that it was basically well-proof. You couldn't just scoop the whole amount of hot within a few blocks, even in a few days, because they were like, I really would suggest people to dive and see what model it was. Actually, they even couldn't sell 100% of their tokens, even though they had the possibilities, because of the way that they built it. Like, there were just certain amounts available per each day, and then at the end they couldn't even sell it, just with the idea to have a fair ICO. They even call it, most people know perhaps, like, initial community offering. So when I see some people coming and talking about wells and being manipulated, they really, like, I mean, it's such a baseless, I have to just laugh, And also, I was a little bit involved in the past, perhaps some people know me as Baudaha. On Telegram, I was a volunteer admin on the Holo chat, so I've seen a lot of very funny attacks, which are completely just kind of sweet, because people didn't even make their homework. It's quite rare, actually, to find a good based FUD. And actually, I even share with some people that I prefer a good educated FUD over uneducated hype, like million times. Because if somebody comes with good educated FUD, they're actually open to learn. Well, hype is just, we see what happened the last 2 years.
Yeah. So let's talk about how Holochain and Holo is different in a sec. I guess I'll just touch very briefly on how I got involved in the blockchain industry. Well, I mean, I never was involved in it, but when I first started opening up to it was about a year ago, even though I'd been aware of it for quite some time. I went to Block Show Asia in Singapore, and just to see what the vibe was and how it all operated, and wanted to talk to a few different programs. Had one meeting first thing with the CEO of one of the programs. He didn't show up, and then when I approached him later, he didn't apologise. So I thought that was a bit weird, and especially when I was quite excited about potentially doing business with them. It was basically like they had so much money that they didn't really care.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to a speech on the Internet of Things and how they were looking to tie in blockchain with smart cities and all of this kind of thing. And at the end of that panel, I stood up in front of about 1,500 people and asked about what they thought about the emissions from 5G and EMFs and all these kind of things, and how I had a real concern about it, and how the leading science was showing that it can have quite harmful effects to humans. And it was just completely dismissed, and I looked like a crazy person. And I walked away from that conference quite disillusioned about what it was that blockchain was actually doing. I felt like people were really disconnected from what the whole point of it all was. Everyone was talking about decentralizing everything. And there's a really strong meme of, we need to take out all these central authorities, decentralize the world, and give the power back to the people. But the solution for that is to digitize, tokenize, and centralize the power with computing power. And it's very strange to me that people can't actually see that. And I guess what I've come to realize is that it feels like it's been swallowed up by people making money, and people blinded by that, people lashing out, acting out of fear, rallying behind their program even when there's serious flaws because they're invested in it. And, we're seeing that a bit on Twitter in regards to people lashing out against Holo as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I kind of, started looking into the blockchain space. And it was only a handful of months after that I found Holochain, which is obviously very different. And Holochain is part of a much big project,
Scepter,
which is essentially just riding the wave of blockchain, even though it's not blockchain. So they can create a fully distributed internet. So maybe sort of that's a good segue into talking about why we feel Holochain is different in the way that we're going about it, and obviously built on the biomimicry of nature. Having the technology built in that way means that people having to unlearn a lot of the ways that they've previously done things, and to create something from an agent-centric or a human-centric perspective is really. I honestly believe that this is a very special moment in history where the internet comes back to us. Arthur's touched on it previously about Tim Berners-Lee and what he created, and how it's essentially turned into these warehouses of hosting infrastructure with all these bottlenecks. There's over 20 different points of centralization, and it basically feels like all these blockchain projects made a lot of promises, raised a lot of money, and they can't actually do what they say. And a Holochain, rather than coming in and fighting against all of that and creating competitors and butting heads with it all, is is saying, hey, here's another option. We're doing things differently, and it works for you, not against you.
Yeah.
And other projects can bridge to it rather than having to compete directly with it. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, well, in my view, what blockchain and the past few years did was, I think, very important, very fundamental. They brought forward the conversation about the possibility to decentralize the internet, and not simply the internet, because like you can't really separate the internet from, business, economy, even the social aspects and the cultural aspects that it brings forward. Like this cultural shift. I think historically, looking back, maybe not even 50, maybe even 20 years back in time, for the times we live right now, we'll be like, wow, it's very difficult to grasp what's happening on a collective, especially on collective level, while it's actually happening, because you're the part of the process, even individually and especially collectively. So blockchain came with this very important message, and I think that was really it's very subtle in a way, but many people came to this space because of that. I would never forget the time that I was a little bit more involved with a project called the DAO back in 2016, and the people I was meeting on the forums and getting involved completely, volunteering and just being interested in to participate. Some very interesting people. There were some people who were also involved with the building of the internet in the 90s. Very fascinating time. And this was, I think, the most important kind of message that blockchain brought. And of course, that came with the possibilities to make a huge amount of money. The hype came in, then there was, of course, this very, this aspect of crypto, which has been there basically since quite some years. The speculative nature of crypto being low liquidity market, being highly manipulated. So that brought also another kind of type of people. But as well, let's be honest, every one of us has those both sides, like the visionary, but also like the speculative individual. We all have that aspect. So we start, like each one of us starts resonating even with the speculative aspects, like there was this opportunity for people to make money. It's not like just, you have like 50% that they're visionaries and 50% are just speculative folk. It's all interwoven and interconnected. But blockchain brought that narrative, brought that message, and it also started failing to deliver. And, we won't be going perhaps into details why, but, it's out there, the reasons, and all those startups coming with, getting huge amount of money and completely losing the balance and not being grounded, and you name it.
Yeah, so on that point, I mean, I guess one thing that I've noticed is that the people sort of at the top, if you will, of the blockchain world seem to be people that are sort of deep tech-based people, and they have sort of a superior knowledge on a certain aspect of computing, and then there's a big disconnect from the rest of the people, and because other people don't really understand the tech as deeply as them, they're almost put on a pedestal, so those people can't really connect or have as much impact as those other people, and the sort of power's almost gone to those people just because of ignorance in some way of what actually works. And then what I've seen with Holo is that, and why I'm drawn to it, is there's a lot of like permaculture type people. There's people working on things like bringing back the commons, things like that Fernanda is working on with the commons engine, and you know, there's obviously like the deep tech aspect of it that's always going to be there, but people have to unlearn a lot of the ways that they've previously done things, and you know, spending time in nature, as hippie as that sound, while immersing in the technology is something that's of paramount importance, because the technology itself is designed on the biomimicry of nature. So what we've seen in a lot of people in their workplaces is that people are getting burnt out. You know, people are getting stressed. They're spending a lot of time on their devices, and even the applications on those devices aren't working for them. Things like social media being so data-driven, working against the people. Like Phil Beadle said in his marketing meat bag video, you know, you're the customer. Like you're the product. You know.
If you can't figure out what's the product, that's you.
Yeah. What's that? Sorry.
Yeah, if you can't really figure out what's the product, then that means perhaps the product that's you. It's you. Yeah,
I mean, I come from the online poker world, so pretty familiar with if you don't know who the fish is, it's you. So I mean, it's there's also, you know, the aspect that, you know, I mean, what do you feel about the argument that the team is, or the community in general, are a bunch of hippies and left wingers, and they, you know, are they really going to be able to pull this off because they come from that side of things? What do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, you know, I had the opportunity to join one hackathon in September in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. So I met, you know, some of the team, like Art was there, Matthew was there, and some of the people who were there who were already following the development of Holochain and participating. So I have my experience with, you know, the actual persons behind just the name and you know, the people behind Holochain. But also you can see it if we just come back to the EMA yesterday. For me, this was it was like just a breath of fresh air, especially in what's going on this last months in kind of like the crypto sphere. And I see people actually seeing us like a recent update came out, and it became clear that the team is taking the path of not having a hard date in their roadmap. Have a sequence, but not having to give promises for dates that this will happen, you know, at the end of this month, that quarter. And some people from the community found this to be something alarming, quite negative. In my opinion, it's basically totally the opposite, because you know, in most tech startups, they really stay for a reason private for a long time prior going, you know, public. Because in this space, in order to not just survive, but build something lasting, long-term lasting, you really need to be flexible and agile, especially in this space, especially in crypto. You can see that the team are incorporating Holo in Gibraltar, and there is a big reason, there's a very important reason for that. So you need to be very flexible. I also, in my past, been with one of the projects being involved, I see the community asking for updates of the white paper, and where is that white paper? Where is the new version of the white paper? I see it happening here with Holo. The fact is, while you write the white paper, so many things change, circumstances. That's how it is. It's basically it's like a train laying its own tracks. Like you are discovering a new island in the Pacific. You don't have the roadmap of that island. This is about the organization. Yes, if we talk about perhaps the coding part and the development, things could be much clearer, much easier to map. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. We even see it with the delay of delivery of holopods. Something popped out that had to be changed, like some kind of, I'm not really sure what it was, but
the certification process.
The certification process, yes. These are things that you cannot think ahead. You have to act when they just arise. You need to be agile and flexible about it. So I'm very glad that the team actually decided to do that, because then the expectations are less, the pressure is less, and ultimately it will help things to go much smoother and faster. And also the community will have less expectations. The less expectations, the less you're going to be surprised or you're going to be disappointed. And yeah, so
I've got some points on that. On the white paper, yes, it's important, but it's also important to understand that most people aren't going to be able to read it.
No.
It's very, very technical. Poprox, who's going to be rewriting it, is working on the sheafs and the mathematics behind it all. He's been working with Statebox, I believe, and has had a couple of breakthroughs. But it's going to take some time. And I guess, because of the blockchain industry and the importance of the white paper, it's a big deal to people. And yes, it is. But most people aren't going to be able to read it.
No.
I probably won't be able to.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then in regards to the updates, I do think that Holochain made a mistake early on giving all of the dates, and he received quite a lot of backlash about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've rectified that problem. And if they had have given hard dates on this current release, then what we would be hearing from the whole crypto world is how shit Holochain is for missing all their deadlines. And instead, we have people that are happy that everything's so transparent and open, and happy that the Holochain team has seen the need for regular updates, and people really respect that. And okay, there's no hard deadlines, but every week you can tune in and see exactly where the project's at. You're not going months without updates, and it means that the expectations of the community can be in line with the development.
Yeah.
And one thing that I also want to touch on, and this is what we're going through as well, and why we've taken a similar approach.
With whom? Yeah.
Is the actual creative process itself. It can't be underestimated how important it is to be grounded and to be in a position to be able to have a clear vessel to create through. And when you have people jumping down your throat, deadlines and pressure and all these outside forces coming at you, then it does make it more difficult to create the best thing possible. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be without stresses and pressure does come with this territory. Like, I fully understand that. But if we want to create something truly special here, then people need to have their own personal sovereignty and creative expression to be able to create it. And so I'm actually quite protective of the Holochain team, so they can have the breathing space to deliver on what they say they are. So that's my perspective on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was very, very positively surprised. Not surprised, but it was very good to see how relaxed the team is on yesterday's EMA. It was very
Yeah, that was really refreshing, eh? Especially
such
when
a
if you look at the other chats in some of the other projects,
exactly
everyone is really stressed. They're really hyped up. They're on edge. They're anxious, and we got to hear from not only Matthew but Mary Camacho
yep,
and Arthur Brock as well, and it was like a big sigh of relief. Like
absolutely, absolutely.
it was quiet confidence, and
This is the word exactly.
and that came through loud and clear. What they don't say is almost as important as what they do say.
It's
And
absolutely, and they're not hiding just behind some bunch of hard marketing guns. And let's be honest, with all these roadmaps, all these announcements in crypto, do we have something? No. This is a marketing BS. Like just all those roadmaps with highlighted, roadblocks to be reached and roadblocks. Yeah, it's in a way it's a roadblocks. Like it's all just a marketing stunt for people to jump in, to get attention on social media, to pump the coin and stuff. This is a different game here. This is completely different. And I've seen some people being disappointed by the recent update and, as we mentioned, the removal of hard dates, delivery dates. But in the long run, this is bringing confidence because there is this seriousness, and you saw it yesterday on the EMA. I really recommend to people, do not ask people, oh, how was the EMA? Can you give me the highlights? Watch it, because there is something there which is you can't really transmit in just by highlighting what did they say. It's about the confidence and the presence. And maybe some can say, yeah, this is kind of some hippie bullshit, but actually it makes all the difference. And especially going meeting them, we both been on hackathons, quite fortunate to meet the team. It makes such a difference. And that's another thing, like in blockchain, I remember when I was going to the hackathon in September, a mate of mine here in the Netherlands invited me to go on a blockchain conference, which was basically a 2 hours thing with a coffee break in between. And it costed like a leg and an arm just to be there. It was like just a bunch of people, blockchain experts. At the same moment, I went for a full weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the Holochain team. And it was basically free. I mean, like, it was not free. It was like some symbolic amount of money just for the space and for the delicious food and coffee that came with it. It makes all the difference. Like, about the intention and motivation behind it.
Yeah. I'll say that, I've traveled the world, going to a lot of sacred sites, going and spending time with elders and people with a lot of knowledge and this kind of thing. And I'm not just saying this because I'm involved in Holochain, but, it was very evident to me straight from the beginning that Arthur is a very special person and he has a lot of wisdom to bring into this space. One thing that I want to just touch on before we finish up is can you speak a little bit about what you feel is important in the Holochain ecosystem? So I guess what I'm asking is that, especially in the crypto space, people are looking for these big partnership announcements so the price will spike, right? But what we're really looking for is things like real adoption, not just selling tokens when it gets to a certain price. What does it mean to have real adoption? What do you feel the community should be focusing on that's important for the growth, so to speak?
I think the most important that just pops up now is basically build applications. Maybe it's not the right word. I remember Eric Harris Brown touching on that application is not really the right word for what will, for at least for what will be built on Holochain, but like services and applications, but a very simple modular one that could interact and support each other, and the more the more of those Holochain based applications start coming out, and they talk about something very simple, not like the next Facebook or Twitter or you name it, but very simple services built on it, the better and the faster the growth will be. And I think that is not that difficult. It's not so far, because I met some developers and I saw their excitement of what is emerging and the tools that are coming up. And there was like, wow, that's what I want to do, to create tools for actually even more basic tools, fundamental for helping people to build their applications and services on Holochain. And that alone can be very important for the very quick and rapid adoption.
Yeah, I think the pluggable nature of the technology is a real game changer.
It's a complete game changer.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, I mean, and not everyone is going to be able to create applications, right? No. But people want to be able to get involved and to help. But in regards to the expectations of the community, like I'm sure a lot of the community, well, a portion of the community, I should say, is looking for a big partnership and announcement as kind of the signal of progress, or they're looking for specifically the HoloPorts delivery as the progress. Where do you think those expectations should lie? Like what do you feel should be important to the community?
I understand, and especially if you go back to the community, that we have all those Telegram chats, channels, and people on social media becoming more and more active. We see some really growth in the community. Let's say the Turkish community is just exploding, and people are looking for something to basically hold on, something to look towards. That's also related perhaps with why people are a little bit disappointed when they don't have a hard date of a launch to look forward to. So it's understandable, but also I would recommend to look into the long term and basically zoom out. Where is this going? And maybe even compare with what they know in the tech world or in the crypto world. Do their own research a little bit deeper than just checking Twitter and some crypto articles, what they talk about, Holo and Holochain, and zoom out. And what do you think? What is your?
I mean, I'm obviously super biased here, and but I mean, I think real change happens when we start actually adopting and using apps like the comments on Hum. That's obviously like a super plug for us.
But
it's easy. It's easy to comment from the sidelines and talk about a partnership deal. But if no one's actually using it, then I mean it doesn't really have an impact. And to lead on from that, the apps are what is going to create the demand for HoloFuel, and people want the HoloPorts so they can earn HoloFuel, right?
But if there is no apps, there is no.
So they can provide the service. So.
If there is no apps, there is no HoloFuel usage. Then it just becomes another speculative asset in a certain way.
And that's what really creates. I mean, there's a real key in here that everything's set up as win-win situations. So we are developing a suite of apps that are going to make money, but we do have a real desire and intention to help the earth, nature, and the community. And the community itself is going to be better off and have more value associated with it the more these apps take off. So that's one part of it. And I think the more people learn about these different projects like Producers Token, Just One Organics, Sacred Capital, Junto, David Atkinson talked today in his recent article about crowdfunding platform. There's a lot of different things coming out. Yeah. And until people actually start using the thing and getting that's basically my perspective is, it's one thing to have partnerships, but partnerships don't mean shit unless it means adoption. And buying a token, having a partnership announcement, having a price spike and cashing out doesn't do anything for anyone other than making some money. And from my perspective, that just recreates the current system that we already have. We're here to create regenerative ecosystems that help us all, So, and I know I'm fully aware that we're app creators, and that's a self-serving comment, but that's just how I really feel.
Yeah, but that's also what made us go into it, because you're exactly right. You're really touching there a crucial point, that when the same people, like us, when we start asking, where are the next partnerships, when this thing will be, when the real world adoption will begin. Well, it's up to us, really. I mean, the community is, the people are the people who are immediately aware of what's emerging here. So why don't we start with that? Basically, get involved and support the emerging ecosystem by basically using it. I mean, it's quite early, and we at home, we came up with the block, and we just announced and implemented the first basic command functionality on it. Just go try it, And some people came, and it was really interesting because that helped us a lot to find some bugs and some ideas for the further development. But more coming. We heard of some being developed a little bit in more, not really stealth mode, but not being made public. They're coming up. They're coming out, especially once we have the full implementation of Refactor Rust, and then just go use it. Don't ask when is the next partnership, when this whole thing will become, will be used, we will have adoption, and just go and use it. Try it.
Yeah, and that was why we worked so hard to get it out. And I don't want to keep talking about us. I guess I just want to leave with a final comment that the more value that you put into the ecosystem, the more you get out of it, and that's how it's designed.
Yeah.
And it's about taking action now. Like, it's we can talk about how everyone's going to change the world, but the way to do it is by taking an active part in it.
Yeah.
And I one thing that I've noticed is that people that do really dive into it and get to that next level of knowledge really get excited. But the people that don't tend to hit these barriers and don't really see the significance of what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would challenge people to really go to that next level and to really get a deep understanding of this radical change that's happening before our eyes. Because very smart people like Crypto Briefing, that guy that did the technology review. People like that really understand what's going on. People like the Weiss ratings. I know that they're from the traditional world, and some people might not take their opinion seriously, but people that understand it are very, very excited about it, and it's only a matter of until it gets out. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. And so that's where I'm at with it. So this has been awesome, man. I'd love to do more of this. Yeah,
it's I think it's a good place to wrap it up for today. It's really it's really exciting to discuss and be part of this. Incredible.
Yeah. I'm really excited to be part of it as well, and I've got a lot of gratitude for the comments that we've received so far, and for the interaction, and I've learned so much and grown as a person a lot already, and let's see how it all unfolds, hey?
Yeah, man.
All right, brother. Well, peace out.
Yeah, man. Have a nice one, and see you around.
Okay. Ciao.
Ciao.